What is up, and welcome to the 5 steps that you need to build athletic muscle without cheating and taking steroids. So the goal of this training is to have you learn the methods that we actually use inside of the Peak Performance program to help our athletes and former athletes build muscle, get more athletic, and become more powerful. So if those are some of your goals, get ready because they're coming at you. And by the end, you'll be able to incorporate these methods into your own training to be able to experience firsthand just how powerful these methods are at increasing your strength, muscle, and explosiveness. So this is really for the athlete and former athlete who's ready to take back their athleticism. Maybe you've been doing bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever it is, and you've just noticed that you are not anywhere close to athletic as you want to be, and you really want to focus on getting back that athleticism to build muscle, to be powerful, and get that explosiveness back. And honestly, this is for the athlete and former athlete who's tired of their own bullshit, excuses, and you are ready to get back to work and reach your full potential because you know deep down inside where you actually could be if you gave it your all. And this is also for the former athlete who's honestly just tired of being scared about getting back into athletic training. Maybe you forgot that identity, or you're trying to push that identity way down inside. You're like, oh, I don't really need to be athletic, right? I'm not an athlete anymore, because I went through this myself, and I got to tell you, that shit sucked. And this is for the athlete and the former athlete who's tired of that bullshit little voice and is actually ready to be who they actually are, which is that athlete that they know is down inside there. So who am I, right? I'm your coach. I'm Nick Leiden. I'm the founder of Peak Performance and Athlete Academy. I've been helping athletes for the past 10 years. I'm a strength and conditioning coach at Chaffey College in Rancho Cucamonga. I've got my bachelor's and master's in kinesiology, which is the study of how the body moves and how we adapt to physical exercise and things of that nature. And I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist, a kettlebell instructor, and I myself am a former D1 athlete. And really how this all came to be is, after I got done playing, I wanted to go professional and play in the NFL. That didn't happen. And after that, I was kind of lost for a very long time, like 3-4 years, where I was trying to shift my identity around. It used to be performance and how I felt on the field and what I was capable of in myself. And I was like, I guess I'm going to just try to really care about how I look. And I fell into a deep spiral with that, getting super analytical around like how I looked and how many calories. I messed up all my metabolism, all this stuff, trying to do all the building stuff. And I gotta be real, I fucking hated it. Like, it was the worst time of my life. And then I was like, dude, this sucks. And I'm a fucking athlete. I just looked myself in the mirror and was like, you're a fucking athlete. Be a fucking athlete, right? So then I started all this training. I started researching a lot more, and there really wasn't anything out there on the market, right? Like, there's just like the elite level athletes who are training, who are professional, and then there's like your high school stuff. But there was no middle ground, right? About people who are still athletic, want to still become athletic, get in good shape, build some muscle, and actually perform at a high level for the entirety of their life and career. And that's how this all came to be. And this is why I'm so passionate about this, because if you're anything like me, I know you're probably in that same boat as well. So let's get into what we're going to actually be covering in this training. So the first thing we're going to go over is why bodybuilding is actually ruining your results. And then we're going to get into what your body actually needs to build muscle, right? And so we can actually learn what's going on behind the scenes. So if we know what's going on, how muscle's actually built, right, and what we need to stimulate it, then we can put that in our programming and actually get the results that we want. Then I'm going to go over how to actually build athletic muscle and explosiveness, and then how to actually build a program which all of you can screenshot, take it away, use it yourself for building muscle and athleticism. And then the last thing that we're going to go over is how you can actually use cardio. And when I say cardio, I mean a specific type of cardio that we're doing that actually will enhance your muscle building and maximize your results in athleticism. So the first thing, If you train like a bodybuilder, you're going to lose your athleticism. It's just going to happen, right? So when we think about bodybuilding, they have one primary goal of building muscle at all costs, right? And if we know a little bit about what it takes to be an athlete, right? We need strength, we need power, we need speed, acceleration, we need agility, we need coordination, mobility, and balance, right? We also need like conditioning, right? So there's 6 things right off the top of my head that athletes need. But if we're only training one area of that I didn't even mention for being an athlete, right? Like I don't even count hypertrophy and muscle growth as like a necessary condition for being an athlete. It should be a byproduct of how you're training and your strength and power work. But you're missing out on all those 6 different things that actually make you an athlete. So there's no plyometrics, there's no jumping, there's no sprinting, there's no anything that actually makes you feel more coordinated and athletic, right? Because these muscle building programs only really focus on one aspect and one real main method for building muscle. And it really is high volume, super high volume, right? It's that pump work or training to failure. And then there is no plyometrics or power training. And these working together are going to, yes, they'll take your muscles and they'll get them a little bit bigger for sure if you're maybe an enhanced athlete, right? The steroid athlete, because we got to understand when you're a bodybuilder and you're someone who's on maybe those performance enhancing drugs, your body is completely different than a natural athlete. Completely different. You can crush yourself in the gym over and over and over. You can actually train to failure and recover from it. But as natural athletes and someone who doesn't want to take steroids, you have to be more specific with how you're going to do this and induce the adaptations, right? The results that we want through scientific principles that I'll share with you in a little bit, right? But once we know what actually goes on behind muscle growth, you don't need to really sacrifice your athleticism for muscle growth, okay? So here's what your body actually needs to build muscle, right? The number one, the king of all of these is mechanical tension, right? So mechanical tension is like a force or a tension that is like lifting a weight, right? But it's actually that force on the muscle that's trying to lengthen it. So for like, say, a bench press, right? You push up, and as you're lowering it back down, that muscle, that weight is trying to act on the muscle to lengthen it down, right? It's always trying to lengthen it. So your muscles are under tension and they're lengthening, right? It's trying to lengthen, right? That is really where the mechanical tension is happening. Now, that's not to say that it's not happening as you're coming up, right? Because as you're pushing up, your muscles are contracting, but the weight is trying to make them lengthen out again, right? That's what if you're like pushing a weight and you can't get it up, the mechanical tension was, in this terms, a little too great, right? That your body couldn't produce enough force, so it came back down. That's not to say that training to failure like that is necessary for muscle growth at all. But your mechanical tension really does need to be progressed over time. So this is called progressive overload, and this is the founding principle for all the results you can want, whether that be with your speed, your agility, your mobility, your strength, your muscle. Everything needs to be progressive overload. Okay, so that simply means that as your body adapts, you're giving it a new, harder, more challenging stimulus to make it grow again, right? So our body, how it adapts is there's a stimulus, right? It beats us up a little bit. We recover from it. We adapt to be able to handle that stimulus, and we repeat the cycle. So now you can do this in weight training specifically by increasing either the intensity or the weight or the load that you're using, the total volume, so sets and reps, or the frequency. So like how many times you're training throughout the week with it. So going from, say, 3 to 4. Mechanical tension is number one, okay? And the next one is metabolic stress, okay? This is when a muscle is under stress and it can't produce as much force, right, lifting power, as it normally can in a rested state. So, like, think of this as like on a set of 12, it's like reps 8 through 12, right? Like you're starting to get that burn, it's starting fatiguing a little bit. There's a lot of metabolic stress that's accumulating there. And that metabolic stress does is it makes it harder, but then it forces your body to recruit more muscle fibers to actually help produce that the force that we need to actually make that happen and then make that lift happen. So When this occurs, the metabolic stress is really responsible for a cascade of anabolic hormones that we get post-workout, such as testosterone, which we're all pretty much after as males or anyone who's trying to build some muscle. Okay. And then the last thing is DOM. So the delayed onset muscle soreness, right? Like you go to the gym, lift some weights, and you're sore the next day, right? So what's happening there is that there's little microfiber tears in your muscles, and they're having to recover from that. Now, DOMS isn't necessary for muscle growth. Okay, I want to say that again. It usually happens at the beginning, but it is not a necessary factor in making all of this happen. Okay, and making muscle growth happen. But I do want to say, in order for any of, say, metabolic stress, DOMS, whatever, mechanical tension has to be there plus metabolic stress, or mechanical tension plus DOMS, right? That has to happen. That's not technically how it works, but that's a simple understanding for us to understand with it. So mechanical tension is king, okay? So now we're going to go into what are actually some of those training methods, okay? So if you can look on the right, this is one of our members here. He's doing some contrast training with a heavy lift into a plyometric. So it's the same movement pattern, right? That squat movement pattern. And what this simply is that you're priming and ramping up your nervous system to recruit the maximal amount of force, tension, what's called central nervous drive, your rate of force development, all through that heavy lift, and then taking it into a plyometric movement, which is purely power focused. So essentially what we're doing is we're ramping up our nervous system to be like, hey, like we got to go. And then you go into a power-based movement and you have you're taking advantage of what's called PAP. So it's post-activation potentiation. All it means is that the exercise you do after, you're going to have some better results. So with those better results, we're slowly teaching our body to perform at that level over and over. So an example of this, you can see right there, heavy compound movement, plyometric movement. So like a back squat or the hex bar deadlift like you saw in a box jumps. And then typically we want to be around 3 to 4 sets, 3 to 6 reps. We don't want to go super high in the reps because that's like endurance training. Our muscles will get fatigued and we won't take advantage of the PAPs that we are trying to. Okay. Now, the other method is the reverse contrast training method. So as you saw in the video or seen in the video, that's where we're doing a plyometric or very power velocity based movement prior to going into our heavy lift, because what this does is, again, it primes the central nervous system to express maximal power and maximal muscle recruitment before going into our strength-based movement. So what this does is it allows us to push more weight in those sets when we're trying to focus on building that strength and muscle. It allows us to really ramp up that intensity while still maintaining your power and athleticism. So in this example, you saw med ball 4 pass, bench press. Again, same thing, 3 to 4 sets, 3 to 6 reps, same reasons as before, okay? So here's an example, a full workout example of the reverse contrast training method, right? So if we're doing lower body, we're going to do box jumps, 4 sets of 3, straight into trap bar deadlifts, 4 sets of 4 to 6. Then you're going to rest. Make sure you rest. You have to rest 3 to 5 minutes to fully recover. So again, you get better quality sets every single time, okay? And another example, right? So now we got our squat, our quads, our glutes, right? Now we're working our hamstrings a little bit more. Kettlebell swings, 4 sets of 5, right into RDLs, 4 sets of 6. With both of these, we are maximizing how much strength we can get out of each of those sets. With these, we're providing the greatest stimulus on our body for that mechanical tension that we want in order to get the results we want, okay? Then after we've done this, we built up a ton of mechanical tension. Now we're going to get into a little bit of the metabolic stress, okay? That's where we're going to start to up the reps a little bit. So Bulgarian split squats, 3 sets of 8. Those are brutal. They suck, but they build muscle. Something like a lying hamstring curl. And then for our core stability, maybe a kettlebell front rack farmer's march. Totally do this workout. Let me know how it goes. Tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see it. Okay. Now let's get into the next component, which is program design for building muscle and building explosiveness and athleticism. Okay. You're going to use what's called an undulating periodization model. All this simply means is that we focus on one goal one of the days and another goal another day, on other days, and we go back and forth between them. You can get super fancy, but this is just a very simple way to do it. It allows you to have both training goals and hit them simultaneously to get maximal results. Okay, so you'll have 2 strength focused days where you're going to be using reverse contrast training. And then each week you're going to increase the intensity, aka the weight, and then you're going to decrease or increase the sets, right? And decrease the reps so we can really maximize that strength. Okay. Then we're going to go into 2 days of hypertrophy training. So that's where we're going to use what's called reverse linear periodization. And all that means is that you're going to increase the reps and sets, so increasing the volume over time, but decreasing the intensity. This is really where you're going to hit more of that metabolic stress component, time under tension component to really help aid your muscle growth. Huge mechanical tension over here, right? Strength focus, a lot of muscle growth over here on the other days, okay? Now, I mentioned, right, in order to maximize our gains with muscle growth and staying explosive, a lot of you still are going to need to be doing some sort of cardio or conditioning, right, to stay healthy, stay safe. And contrary to popular belief, if you're doing the right type of cardio, it does not have a negative effect on muscle growth. It can actually enhance that, and that's what I'm about to share with you, okay? So we're going to pair the most effective training methods to keep you building muscle. Of course, you got to be eating big, right, in order to make that happen. But with our lower body days, you're actually going to pair acceleration-based speed training prior to your strength and hypertrophy session. So on the lower body days, you're going to be doing things like in this picture, resisted sled sprints. You'll be doing hill sprints, stadiums, anything that's quick, explosive, requires a lot of power. That's going to actually prime your nervous system and prime your body to actually lift a little bit heavier before you go into lift, okay? Now, you're also going to get, with that type of cardio, you're also going to get huge anabolic effects, right, from your hormones to help aid that. And you're also going to help grow those muscles because there is a loaded component to it. It's just a high velocity to develop your fast twitch muscle fibers. Fast twitch muscle fibers are what are going to actually like give you a lot of that growth and that muscle hypertrophy. Now, not necessary, but if you're trying to stay lean and really not just like do a dirty bulk or anything, on your upper body days, you're either going to pair that with a active recovery type day or a conditioning session on your training after you have gone through. So with this, you're depleting all of your glycogen, okay? You're depleting most of your energy. Then you're going to go in conditioning. We'll be able to target a little bit more fat stores with that because we've worked through our energy stores, and this is really going to help you stay lean or recover if you choose to do a recovery-based training day. Now, with being a natural athlete, your recovery is super important because that's where everything happens. You crush the body, you do the work, right? Then you recover, then you get the adaptations and the muscle growth, okay? Now, here's what I mentioned. This is the strength and hypertrophy training framework. So you can go ahead and screenshot this right now. I'll give you a second. Okay. You can see it breaks down every day. Day 1, lower, day 2, upper, goes through all of it. It gives you the recommended effort and intensity that's going to happen with that. And then also the paired sprints, acceleration type training in there and the full breakdown of what you're going to be doing. Okay. So if you are interested in joining the Peak Performance and joining what type of fuckery we get into, I don't want to say fuckery, but all of our athletes, we are in a community. We are there together. We are crushing it. We are working hard. If you're interested in how you can actually sign up and be a part of the Peak Performance program, you can email me at nick.athleteacademy.us. Just in the title, put Peak Performance, or you can message me directly. And if you're ready to get started right now, cool. There's an onboarding call we'll do right after. You'll just click the link right below and we'll get you started and we'll get you set. All right. Thank you for joining this. I hope to see you inside the Peak Performance program. Peace.